him and former Wolverine Jerry Diorio. I'm Dennis Fithian, and it is fabulous to be here with you and be able to talk about what's going on in the world of sports, specifically Michigan. Jerry, you're looking great. What's going on?
Great to be a Michigan Wolverine. Always great to be a Michigan Wolverine. The defending national champs, the last undefeated team in American college football.
Good point. I wasn't really thinking about it, but, Michigan is the defending champs until Monday night, right?
Defending champs until Monday. The last defending champs with an undefeated record. How about that?
Yeah. Well, did Notre Dame lose a game?
But we were the last ones, weren't we?
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. And we'll see. Jerry didn't put this on all the list because we've got a million things to talk about it, but how are you approaching Monday night? You got two of Michigan's biggest rivals there. Is it going to be bitter to watch the game? How are you able to manage to make it through without throwing something, or I don't know? How are you approaching the game?
Denny, last year and every other year besides this year, Ohio would not even be considered in the playoffs. You got two losses. They're fourth in the Big Ten. And if I remember correctly, Urban Meyer said, if you don't win your conference championship, you shouldn't win a national championship. Those words come back hard to bite you. They're a two-loss team. But right now, in the teams, the 12 teams that were in the playoff, I would say Ohio was probably the most talented. And with that said, I thought Notre Dame could match up well with Ohio. But when you lose two linemen, a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman of the caliber Notre Dame lost, it's going to be hard pickings for Notre Dame to do that. I would be very surprised if Notre Dame beats Ohio. But then again, I was very surprised that Notre Dame beat Penn State. I thought Penn State should have walked all over them. I thought they were a much better, much more talented team than Notre Dame, but I think Notre Dame outcoached them. So that is on the table there. But Ohio's got some pretty doggone good coaches as well.
For me, it would be a lot. I see people coming apart at the seams about the game and just, having a rough time, thinking about even watching it. And if Michigan hadn't done what they have done over the last 4 years, like beating Ohio State 4 years in a row, winning the national championship, getting to the college football playoff, all these things, I think I would be right there with them. I'd be like, I don't even know if I want to turn it on. But, Michigan has been on the mountaintop, and oh, yeah, all the other stuff that they're doing, they look like they're poised to be right back in there. So, you can't do anything about those other teams. They didn't play Notre Dame this year. They did what they could against Ohio State. So that's how I'm looking at it, and that's how I feel. Now, Jerry, we've got quite a few things here to look at, and one of them is this story that just came out over the last 24 hours with name, image, and likeness and Title IX. And what they're doing here, we're getting ready to make the transition in the Oval Office and all this, but we'll weigh in on that and give you the particulars. We mentioned that, I acted all giddy coming on here on a Friday, and it's because this sports weekend is just chock full of great things to take in locally. And so we will work through that. And that includes a lot of Michigan teams as well in action. But we'll start out like we usually do with Michigan football news. And with that, there is the MHSFCA conference that is going on. That stands for Michigan High School Football Coaches Association. Jerry, you were a long-time high school football coach. What are we talking about, 20 years, 21 years?
A little over 20 years, yep.
A little over 20 years. So
I'm back at it a little bit.
Yeah, so you'll be familiar with that acronym. You attended a few of those conferences, but Sharon Moore today was quoted as asking about the potential of Rod Moore, the outstanding all-conference type safety, if he would be returning. And he said, quote, "It looks good, but we'll see."
Yeah, I think Rod Moore would be intelligent to come back to Michigan. I think thinking you're going in the NFL draft with a year of injury and no snaps at all, I think it's a real gamble. I think it would be a mistake if he went into the NFL draft and didn't come back. I think he should utilize that last year, come back to Michigan, and play for a national title and up his standing in the draft. And I think his upside staying at Michigan is way higher than leaving and going to the NFL draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you do have NIL now. And Rod Moore is not only a fan favorite, but he's got to be a coach's favorite as well. I mean, I remember Wink Martindale. I was at his first news conference over there at Glick Fieldhouse, and the first two names that when he was talking about, he said, those guys up front, man, Mason Graham, he's going to be fun to coach. But he said, I love talking ball with Rod Moore. I mean, this guy's a quarterback back there at safety, and we all remember what he was able to do. He the big play guy, awesome safety. And so, he would be due some money, name, image, and likeness wise. So he's got that going for him. I think that he could probably get as much for returning from Michigan, wherever he might be drafted, because he might not even get drafted.
I think Rod Moore is legit to give him money. I think he's proven himself in the past in a Michigan uniform. Remember the interception against Ohio in 23? He's done some really good things for Michigan, and I think we should consider giving him some pretty good money. Because he is going to be a leader on that defensive side, even not being in there last year. He's a very intelligent football player from Ohio. He knows the game very well. He knows this defense probably as well as anybody coming back. So, yeah, I think Rod Moore should be considered one of the leaders on defense next year.
Yeah, we can make a case that might have been the biggest interception in Michigan football history. I know Will Johnson had one earlier in the game, but that was to clinch the game with Ohio State driving. So, yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big deal. Also, Sharon Moore was asked about Wink Martindale interviewing for the open positions with the Falcons and the Colts, and Sharon said, quote, "Don't want to lose him. Don't want him to go anywhere. Want him to be here at Michigan. I think he does too, but he has opportunities to look at." That's just the latest with Wink. I know I didn't ask you about Wink, but the possibility, remains that he could go to the NFL, but also that he could return to Michigan. I think everybody wants to see him come back for at least one more year.
I think a lot of people, including myself, are very critical of Wink Martindale's defense early in the season. And to his credit, he adjusted and made the adjustments to be successful. And in my opinion, that is one of the top qualities of a coach. When you can make the adjustments, turn things around, and become dominant, that's a great quality. And so I at the end of the season, I was saying Wink Martindale is at least one of the top 5, if not top 3, maybe one of the top 3 assistant coaches in college football right now. His background is NFL, big time, and I think he enjoys the NFL. But we'll see. We'll see where Wink Martindale did a phenomenal job at Michigan this year, and I would love to see him come back. I think he did a great job this year.
I am with you on that. More Michigan football news. Rayshawn Benny is expected to come back on that Michigan defensive line. Esposito, Michigan's D-line coach, told MLive that he was coming back. So Benny back in the fold is nothing but good news for the Maize and Blue.
Benny coming back, Moore coming back. And I think we're going to talk about Barnum, and we're going to also talk about who's the other one? Was there another one that was that we were talking about coming back?
That was on the fence. No, well, we were talking about Barham, Moore, and Benny, and Moore hasn't made it official, but Sharon Moore made it sound like it's all but official. Benny sounds like he is official, and Barham didn't put his name in with the underclassmen yesterday or the day before, so it appears that he's coming back as well. But I don't have the the 100% official tweet or social from bar him. But all three of those guys look like they're coming back to Michigan.
Well, those are great keeps right there. If we can keep all three of those players have them coming back, I think our defense is going to be very solid next year. I mean, I don't know what we're going to be down as far as in the two inside. When you lose Graham and Grant, though, those are not easy to replace. You're not going to replace them. You're not. So it's a matter of how big the drop off is. Not that there's going to be we know there's going to be a drop off. How deep is the drop off going to be? Are we going to be able to play a little bit more personnel and maybe gain some of that drop off? But whoever's in those two positions, they got some big shoes to fill. If we can get those players playing at Michigan caliber in those two positions, we're going to have one of the best defenses in the country next year.
Jerry, it's a huge weekend for Michigan on the recruiting front. And right now, as we speak, in Ann Arbor is a kid from Texas, an offensive lineman named Ty Haywood. And he is from Denton, Texas. And he committed to Alabama. He has since decommitted. And he is in Ann Arbor. He is in the late signing period. And a lot of these experts, including our own here at the Maize and Blue Review, are pointing to Haywood ultimately ending up at Michigan, which, of course, is music to everyone's ears. And if we were talking about the tackle position, Lincoln Sprague started the bowl game. You've got Babaloa, who they got in this recruiting cycle. Haywood, maybe. That looks like bookend tackles. Gatch could be a tackle, but heck, he also, a lot of people project him to be a guard. Michigan is in on not only this transfer portal tackle named Pete, who's down to Michigan, Nebraska, Kentucky. They're also in on some depth linemen from Arizona and Troy. Who knows? Those guys can come in and can compete for a job. And then they have the depth. But the question to you, Jerry, is you got Haywood and these other guys that are in the portal, they want a lot of money. Would you, if you could choose between the two, would you take a highly thought of prep player?
I think there's some things you got to consider. And one of the things I'm considering right now is how's our depth at the tackle position? And from what I'm looking at, we're kind of young there. We got Link. I think he's going to be a junior, correct?
No, I think he's going to be a sophomore.
A sophomore. Link will be a sophomore because he'll be a redshirt.
He is a junior. He is a junior.
But he's a redshirt sophomore next year, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Sprague is what? A sophomore.
True sophomore. Yep.
So you got two really young players there, and you got Babaloa, Gatch, and Haywood.
Freshman.
Now, Haywood's the kind of player you might want to take a chance on. Try to get him a little cheaper than a transfer portal kid. But I think the upside on Haywood is good. And when I'm comparing him to a guy from New Mexico State or another guy from Troy, I think I'm going to take a look at Haywood real hard. I want to see the three of them compared, or four of them side to side, and I'm going to look at Haywood because I think we can develop him into being a real good Michigan offensive tackle.
Yeah, and I think this is at least something to consider. RS is asking if Haywood would start immediately. That's not what you want. I mean, what you would want is Link or Sprague, or you'd want one of these depth guys to jump up. We haven't seen Roebuck or Hamilton or Barr or Frazier or Jones. Who's to say, and those guys have been around in the system. Who's to say that those guys couldn't be the ones? But when they're looking for depth, that also tells you that they're not, they got to play everything. Now, having everyone, the answer is, to have Michigan fans like, hey, would you like Haywood and Shayez Pede or another one? And the answer is yes. You want both, but they might not be able to get both. So the either or one or the other was I thought interesting for you to talk about.
Yeah, and remember, we're not even talking about the young man we brought in from Long Beach, the offensive tackle from Long Beach. So right. The nice thing is, at the end of the day, I think we got some depth. I think Tay Haywood, Haywood would be somebody who can develop into just an absolute dominating offensive tackle.
Yeah, I was considering the kid from Ferris, Hatter, and the kid from Cal Poly as guards, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't compete for a tackle spot.
Well, the nice thing is we've got options there now. We've got some options, and I think there's some good options.
Options, I hear, are nice to have. Now, the option for the folks out there that are watching or listening to this, there is an option that I present to you where you can know more about Michigan football immediately. You can know more about Michigan football than almost anyone out there. How do you do it? You join up with the Maize and Blue Review. You do that by going to michigan.rivals.com. And I got to tell you, all day, all night coverage, the latest and accurate information on what's going on with the Maize and Blue. I'd love to see you over there. Jerry would love to see you over there. We all want to see you join the club. So do that today by going to michigan.rivals.com. It is the place to be. All right, so NIL.
I want to before we get on to this situation, I want to make one point clear on my position on the quarterback. Okay, because I think a lot of people have misconstrued, and I don't think I've been very clear on my position on the quarterback. So here it is, Davis Warren. When I talk about him having experience, he has experience. In my opinion, that's a resource you don't want to give up too quickly until you know somebody is beating him out. Okay, so I would want him in the competition for that quarterback job. I think Keene is the kind of guy that Lindsey's going to gravitate towards him initially. Okay, because I think Keene gives him what he's looking for, that run threat that can also throw at quarterback. And I think that works with Lindsey. With all that said, now you got two quarterbacks that have experience in big games. And then you got the recruit, the 5-star, right? Bryce Underwood. When you look at our schedule and the comments that Wangler made on here and I've made in the past, sprinkle Haywood in like we did JJ. With our schedule the way it looks, by the time we get to after Wisconsin or something like that? Nebraska, we've got a week bye between Nebraska and Wisconsin. I can see Bryce Underwood really competing from that point on for the job. So in my estimation, what I'm trying to say to everybody out there is I like the competition at quarterback. Somebody will prevail and come out ahead. I like the fact that one of them, Keene or Davis Warren, probably going to be Keene. I think it's going to be Keene. Will take us for the first part of the season. But with this schedule, I think Bryce Underwood could be ready very very early, mid-season his freshman year.
I like it. Let me just see where that bye week is. So it's New Mexico, Oklahoma Central, Nebraska on the 20th, and then that's game 4 on the year, and then there's a bye.
Yep.
And then
Wisconsin
at home against Wisconsin.
Yep.
It sounds like a very nice, it's almost like a Kreskin type prediction from you, Jerry, saying that.
I'm just looking at all the things I'm looking at here. Do I want to start a freshman quarterback? No, I don't think he's ready. I think he needs some time. I feel that same way in the pros. I want my quarterback to get comfortable with his offensive line, feel good in the pocket, feel good moving around, and go from there. And so with this schedule, I think there's a very good offensive line coming back, very experienced offensive line coming back. I could see him really competing from Wisconsin on.
How could one of the outstanding podcasters out there, Michigan podcasters, Mays Madman, be upset? I'm not sure what he would be upset about. I'd have to look. Those are great points about the quarterback position. The only thing that I am thinking about when it comes to Davis Warren is he tore his ACL. That's usually a 9-month deal before you get back out on the field, or I mean, not back out on the field, but and that's right about game 1. How is he going to be? I don't think he would be able to compete for the job. You got a guy that, maybe you're talking about in October. So I'm not sure. Somebody was asking if they would go back to the portal. I think when you get to phase 2 and you're in the spring and you get to look at your guys and you're scouting everybody else, you're watching all these spring games, you're sending people to all these different spring games around. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan picks up whatever they miss here. If it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, if these linemen don't work out. I mean, Michigan they're using, this is the one part that I like, goes back to the Ohio State discussion. For years, Michigan was behind the 8 ball when it came down to competing with the SEC and Ohio State. It's not like that anymore. They'll go out there and they can get somebody in, they'll do it. Scar points out that still the transfer portal, the transfer credits, they're still not an even footing with a lot of teams. And, he's right about that, but they sure have pulled up pretty close with everything else. So I feel good about that part.
All I'm saying is, I want that competition. Get somebody ready. And then between that Wisconsin, that Nebraska-Wisconsin game, we could be seeing some real movement.
I like it, Jerry. Now let's get on to this story this week. And
boy, Denny, you're not short of controversy today, are you?
Content, you mean? Content.
Content. Okay.
It was funny how you said that. Well, it can be a little controversial. NIL and Title IX, it brings out a lot of emotion because you not only have sports, you also bring out politics. You bring out men and women's sports. I mean, pretty much anything that you want here. I mean, I guess you're right. It is a controversial thing when you put all of it into the mix. But, Jerry, we can work through it where we don't have to go crazy and say a bunch of wild things unless we really feel that's what we want to say. So the news is that the Department of Education now wants future revenue distribution to go to the athletes as financial assistance, they're calling it, which makes it where you have to pay an equal amount, Title IX, if you're paying somebody on the men's side, an equal amount on the women's side. That's what Title IX has always been about. An added part to this is that if you're getting money from a third party, like Jolin paying Bryce Underwood, the Department of Education says the facts that the funds are provided by a private source does not relieve a school of its responsibility for Title IX compliance. And in layman terms, if you're paying Bryce Underwood $10 million, you better go and get the rowing team and you start paying them a couple $1 million because you got to even it out. Now, we all know that Joe Biden is done after this week. This is like one of his last moves that he is making in his administration. And then Trump is in next week. Now, maybe the new Department of Education, I looked, it's a lady, a female that's going to be run that. And what does that matter? How they approach us? Maybe they just look at it and say, no, we're tearing this up. And that's not the way it's going to work, possibly. But it does make you, at least, a lot of people say there's going to be a lot of lawsuits and a lot of court proceedings with this. Jerry, how did you look at it?
Actually, I think in his infamous wisdom, I think this administration has put something back on the table that should go back on the table, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I want you to know that I am a Title IX supporter. I believe in women's sports. My girls got scholarships, probably because of Title IX. So I'm not going to downplay Title IX. What I will say about Title IX is I think there are some things that need to be renegotiated and reestablished. For instance, number one, and Title IX has been good and bad for women and not really good on men's non-revenue producing sports. So here's my take. Number one, Title IX has really intruded on men's non-revenue producing sports because football numbers are counted into the scholarship numbers. When you count 105 scholarships, that means now women's sports need another 105 scholarships. What does that do? Well, yes, it promotes women's sports, but it also takes away from non-revenue producing men's sports. Hockey, wrestling, track and field, baseball. Many schools, and I'm not talking about Michigan. Michigan is a unique situation. We're financially good, but you've got a lot of schools out there that cannot afford to compete in these areas. And when I say not afford to compete in these areas, they've got to end sports and make them club sports. In other words, there are schools out there that have wrestling clubs and hockey clubs where they used to have wrestling teams and wrestling and hockey teams. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
So these non-revenue producing sports are losing men's scholarships. Men have lost scholarships big time because of that football number that makes it impossible. So in my opinion, the first thing that needs to be done is take those football scholarships right off the board. That makes sense? And let's compete evenly then from there.
I like that idea. I think the football is bringing in so much money. There's no women's football. Take football out of the equation. And they can provide that, they help right now boost up so many of the scholarships and that money. Don't kill football that way. But if you could separate football, some people would say basketball too, because it's a revenue, but the way women's basketball is, the trajectory and the way it's coming out, I could see keeping that. I wouldn't mind seeing Michigan add hockey. Now, those are some of the ways that I look at it, but I don't think that the idea that next year or right now that every dollar needs to be matched for women's sports. You're right. It's going to ruin the rest of men's sport. Michigan might be able to have hockey and in basketball, but they're going to have to. Even Michigan might have to drop some of those sports. So I hear what you're saying.
That's number one. Number two, NIL. Let's put that quote back up there.
All right.
NIL, and I've said this in the past numerous times, it cannot be policed. It cannot be regulated. Why? Because it's a third-party association. We got Bryce Underwood not because of Michigan. We got him, well, yes, because of Michigan, but we got him because of Ellison, the second richest man in the world, who's married to a Michigan alumni. The fact that funds are provided by a private source does not relieve a school's responsibility for Title IX compliance. That's debatable. That right there is debatable. And again, that's point number two. This Title IX should be brought back to the table and renegotiated. Again, not taking anything away from women's sports, but there are some things you have, especially nowadays, especially with now Title IX, with the transfer portal, with all these different newbies in the college athletics. I think it is time that we evaluate Title IX and look at it. That's number two. Number three, we're in a capitalist country. We are a capitalist country, okay? There's a difference between equity and equality, okay? Equality means equal opportunity. You have an opportunity to produce growth, to produce income, to produce wealth, or produce whatever you're producing. That's opportunity. That's equality. Equity is the transfer of funds after they've all been or confiscated. And so we have to understand that there's a difference between equality and equity. And we're talking about equality nowadays, okay? There's no way, I don't think it's feasible to pay women the same that you're paying a Bryce Underwood or some of these other top recruits. I don't think there's a market for it. I don't think the public will pay for it. And I think all it's going to do is hamper both sides of the equation.
Yeah, I was reading on this a little bit today. There are a lot of people that, you know, you don't have to be that much into politics, but we'll take a look at it and they'll say by next week, this will be rescinded, everything that we're talking about. But your idea of taking a look and reevaluating Title IX sounds like a pretty good idea to me, Jerry. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on?
I think that's it. I mean, I think Title IX should be relooked at. You have to account for our system of government and economics. That has to be accounted for. And you have to take a look at the numbers and see where they can be changed to help with equality.
Jerry, we could do a 4-hour show today just on the stuff that we have talked about, but I was jumping in today, all sunshine and a big smile on my face because this is one of these weekends that if you're a sports fan, it's just got you sitting around thinking, I want it all. There's a sports surge in the state of Michigan with Detroit sports, with Michigan sports, and we're right in the center of all of it. I'm just going to run down the schedule a little bit, and then we'll work through some of it. The Michigan hockey team is playing a home-and-home with Michigan State this weekend, 7 o'clock tonight, 7:30 tomorrow night. The Michigan basketball team, who lost last night, we'll get to that. They're hosting Northwestern Sunday at 2 o'clock. Meanwhile, Michigan State, who they are battling out for first place in the Big Ten, the Spartans will play at noon against Illinois on Sunday. So that's when Sunday gets things started. The NFL playoffs, in addition to the Lions playing tomorrow, which is the biggest story of the weekend. Oh, yeah, you get another playoff game that starts at 4:30. The Pistons are hosting the Suns. The Wings are taking on the Lightning tomorrow. So it is all there. Jerry, Lion fans are very excited and confident about their team tomorrow at Ford Field, and I think they should be. What about you?
Well, I tell you what, Danny, I'm out here in Palm Springs, and a lot of Lions fans out here. There are Lions fans everywhere. Danny, I've been to Vegas. I was out in Vegas last week. Lions fans. In Palm Springs, somebody saw me wearing a Michigan hat, yelling down on the golf course, "Go Lions!" So got a lot of Lions fans out there. I think it's America's team. Quoting Harbaugh, Coach Harbaugh. But I think the Lions are America's team right now. I think a lot of people are rooting for the Lions. Very impressed with the way they handled the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they really put it to them. That offense is as dynamic and as explosive as any offense I've seen in a long time in the NFL. And the reason why I'm saying it is it's not a one-sided throw happy or a run. It is very balanced attack with a lot of misdirection, a lot of gimmick plays that really seem to work for the Lions. They don't seem to work for a lot of other teams, but the Lions will make gadget plays work. And so it's really neat to see where the Lions are. I've said this in the past. Campbell kind of reminds me of that Chuck Noll in the early 70s. Kind of a little bit nuts, little gambler type guy,
Steelers coach, yeah.
And I like where we're at with the this team has bought into Campbell. They bought in the offensive system. The defense is even playing better with a lot of injuries, ton of injuries, and they're not using it as an excuse. I love those comments from Coach Campbell. I think the Lions are in a real good position right now.
Yeah, I love all of the aspects of the Lions here. They've got a dynamic offense. You mentioned how they played against the Vikings and Aaron Glenn, what he was able to do with the defense. They looked, and they got Anzalone back, and now they're getting Montgomery back. The Commanders are 30th in run defense. The Lions have the best home field advantage in all of football right now. Everything points to the Lions moving on. And, for as great as Brad Holmes is, the Lions GM, and he deserves all of the credit and everything else, Campbell's the one that, this gambler, he'll hit in Vegas. If he was at the table with you, he'd hit on 19, Jerry. And, for me, a few of these times, I don't know if I've been like, wow, it's just, but
hit the 2.
When you hear the players, they're so in tune. They love Dan Campbell gambling, and it really makes them unite. And it's something with this team. They know that they're good. They know that the coach, he'll go for it on a 4th and 10 from his own 20 because he knows that they'll get it next time. Or he wants to see the defense saying that he has faith in them, and so they're in tune. And these are small things. Football, you go back and say, it's being able to believe in the common goal is a huge thing, and he has been able to bring that into the pro game. Everything around it is just really fabulous for the Lions. I think they'll win, and they'll be home for the NFC championship game, and it's going to be a great time. And people are so. I was talking to somebody today. He's like, I'm so nervous, and I just get. I'm like, look, this is where you want to be. Don't worry. I know. You want it. Don't get that nervous. He's like, but the refs. I'm like, you can't. Don't worry about the refs. Just enjoy the game. Try to enjoy. He's like, I am enjoying it, but he said, this is the only thing I want, before I die. And I said, what do you mean in sports? It's the only thing you want in sports? He's like, yeah. He's just so fired up. He can't wait till tomorrow. And I just walked away from him, and I was like, wow, man, that guy he's got to chill out. But I think a lot of people are like that. They're just on edge for this game tomorrow and can't wait.
Absolutely. People are, they've been talking about it, and, we've got Washington, coming into to Ford Field, and I like the Lions, but the thing I wanted to say is this team has bought in, and I know it's the old cliche of family and all this other stuff, and a lot of people, but man, there is a tight-knit group in that locker room, and that is hard to beat going into the playoffs.
You know what, Jerry? And it makes me, when I go back to last night's game in Minneapolis, the Michigan basketball team fell to Minnesota. And there were a lot of people that were like, well, there, you can kiss the Big Ten championship goodbye, or this team's going to be one and done, or, Dusty can't get him to play. Oh, things that you say when a team loses. It was almost like it was a football game, the way people were, jumping off the bridge and everything last night. But it reminds me a little bit of like when I watch an offensive coordinator and all the things that go into it, the game planning and everything else, the nuance, you're looking at the offensive line. What I could tell from all my years, I can really tell when a guy's in rhythm and he's calling plays and everybody's in tune. And with the Michigan basketball team, the expectations now are through the roof, which is great, but we know they can't turn the ball over and miss key free throws. But the biggest thing is when I was watching them almost from the start, they weren't playing together. They weren't connected. They had guys that were trying to take the ball and not use their teammates. They go 1-on-5 or something, and there was way too much of that. And then they tried to come together late, but it just wasn't the same look as they've had the majority of the season. And in basketball, you're going to have some ups and downs and playing on the road. You can't freak out that much, but there needs to be more of a connectiveness with this team. I think they're going to be okay. They are not out of it. That's a big hit when you lose to Minnesota on the road like that. But I think you should still keep your head up if you're a Michigan basketball fan, and don't think that the refs are going to blow it for you, or, the season's over. They'll be lucky to make it out of the first round of the tournament. I mean, that's a little bit too much for me right now.
Well, Denny, I'm going to tell you something. The turnovers are really surprising to me with this Michigan basketball team. And I'm saying that because I have such respect and admiration for Dusty May as our coach. I really think we picked the right guy. I think he's going to lead. I think he's going to win a national title someday, okay? But what is really shocking to me is that our team turns the ball over. And one of two things are going to happen with this. Okay, we're either going to control that, and we're going to be a really tough team to beat in the tournament, or we're going to expand our run game and not worry about it and just roll the dice and go. We are putting pressure on the defenses so much that we're going to make turnovers. So I'm not sure if that's in Dusty May's wheelhouse, that he's okay with turnovers as long as he's pushing the defense. But I tell you what, if we get the turnover ratio down, we're going to be a real tough team to beat.
You know, I saw him Monday, Dusty, at his news conference, and the day before they had done a really good job. They beat Washington handily, and they had done a good job protecting the ball. And so there wasn't questions that he almost gets almost after every game in press conference about the turnovers. And you could tell, you know, he said it was the first time that, like, he didn't say anything about it to his team. He's pretty much tried everything. Sometimes, you know, he's tried the this is what you coaches do. You know, you try everything. You come out there and read them the riot act. Then you try to pat him on the back. Then you figure out each individual guy. Hey, does this guy need more pushing, or does he need a pat on the back? And then you go through all of them. Then you go through individually, and then you watch the tape, and then you don't say anything, and then you just see how it's going. And you know they cut over to him, and you can just see it on his face during the game last night. Michigan fans, and while they're winning, there were a lot of Michigan fans who were just getting tired of it. It's like, okay, we know they're going to turn the ball over, but stop telling us. But, you know, when you lose and it's happening, well, then it's going to be like, yeah, well, this is going to cost you. Free throw shooting is going to cost you. And not playing hard is going to cost you. Not playing connected is going to cost you. So a learning experience, and let's see if they get right back up on the horse and protect home court on Sunday. And I think people will start coming back a little bit and feeling a little bit better.
You know, like my point is, if we can control those turnovers, we're going to be good. We're going to be good. We're going to be tough in the finals in March.
I like it. A couple on the feedback here. Brian says Trey Donaldson really needs to become more of a floor general. The end of the clock is not good enough. I think you hit on a point, Brian. You know, Michigan has Area 51. They've got Vlad Golden, and they've got Danny Wolf. That's this engine of this is something that is a mismatch for every team. It's different that other teams are going to see. And this is the thing that is going to really make them wherever they end up. But guard play, we can talk about what's important when you get into March, and certainly when you get into the big dance, you always talk about guard play. Donaldson needs help. Yeah, he needs to be more of a floor general, but, Roddy Gale had his worst game, and he's had some clunkers for Michigan. People are down on Gale. Reuben Jones hasn't exactly transferred up and, hit the ground running here. The freshmen are looking like total freshmen. That's the guards. So they're going to need better guard play if they want to end up, if they're going to compete for the Big Ten championship. Much better guard play. If they're going to win in March in the NCAA tournament, they're going to be much better guard play.
Yep, I agree.
All right,
and you can't have Wolf. You can't have Wolf handling the ball all the time. On the half court. So I'm not sure about him handling the ball as much as getting him in a position to score. He's a dynamic scorer. He's going to be a tough matchup all the time. But I'd like to see more handling from the guards. You're right.
All right, Jerry, we've been talking about chicken wings a lot on this show, and
yes.
I just want to get your thoughts here. And so, are you pro chicken wing, or are we just
absolutely?
Okay, you are.
The wing. Where did I have wings at just recently? A couple of days ago at a game. I can't remember. Blue cheese dressing is my favorite to dip in.
Me too.
Absolutely, I like it. I like buffalo, and I like it a little spicy. Not too crazy though. Yeah,
there was a place in Ann Arbor way back in the day, just before my time. There was it's off of Zeeb Road. It's a sports bar. They used to have this giant lumberjack. I don't know if you remember seeing him out there, Jerry, big lumberjack. But then it was called Bandfields on the west side. Now it's called the sports bar. Well, their wings, they were hot wings. And the blue cheese was incredible. Great, mixture of all of that. And out of any of the places, that would be what I would say would be the go-to. So you and I are the same way. We like blue cheese. I don't like to decide between the drums or the flats. I like a mixture of those.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Why would I want to, kick one of them to the curb? I know it's something to talk about. Reminds me, it's like when I was younger, people would say, well, you like blondes or brunettes, or do you like pizza or burgers? I'd be like, yeah, I like it all. Why are you making me make a distinction between, that kind of stuff? So, but yeah, blondes and pizza and, drumsticks. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Jerry, it was great talking with you. What's next? I mean, you've gone to Vegas. You're out in the Golden Coast. Are you near the fires or anything out there?
Good. Danny, we came out here because we wanted to spend a little bit more time with our daughter, and she's moving back from California to Michigan. She just took a new job, and so we came out here thinking that we were going to meet my daughter Angela, and then the fires happened. Nothing here. It's sunny out. It's beautiful. A little chilly for my take. But it's nice out here, sunny. It seems like the winds have calmed down a little bit, but she was right by it. She's at Redondo Beach. I don't know if you know anything about 2.5 Men, but if you watch 2.5 Men, all those homes that they show in between commercials are gone. All those homes on the beach are gone, and just tragic. Horrible what happened to those people, and I'm thankful that my daughter's okay. I told her don't get outflanked by the fires, and she's fine. She couldn't make it here because a couple of the passages were questionable, but I think the winds are calming down a little bit, and we should be okay. I'm hoping they have the resources to do something.
It seemed like it was a huge area that burned, and I don't know about how the winds blow and all of that. So people, you could correct me, Jerry, but it seems like that could happen anywhere in the state, in Southern California, that it was, sort of random. Like it could have happened where it did. It could have happened where your daughter is at. It could have happened where Ferris was at. I'm not sure of that, but it seemed pretty random that way, that it just popped up. And then next thing you know, people were running for the hills kind of thing.
Yeah. Tremendous devastation. And it's shameful what happened.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I've got some advice for you. Don't come back to Michigan. Not next
Well, I'm coming back to Michigan Sunday, Denny.
Oh, this Sunday?
I'm coming back for my granddaughter's birthday. Gonna have my granddaughter's birthday, and then I'm driving down to Florida.
Well, I'm just going to give you the 5-day, Jerry. Have you looked at the 5-day, or is this going to be news to you?
No, I don't want to look at it. I know I'm inside, Denny.
Well, I mean, they're talking -20, -30 at the beginning of the week, so you might be okay.
Are you serious? You're lying, aren't you?
Well,
you're lying, Denny.
Sunday we got a low of 2, but then Monday 9 degrees, Tuesday 7 degrees. Those are the highs. A low of -5. So Tuesday looks like I saw 15 below, 20 below Monday or Tuesday. So you could get out in front of that. I don't know if it's some kind of polar vortex that's going to push down into the Ohio Valley or something.
Holy mackerel, Denny! This is crazy. I might fly to Florida.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Have everybody drive down and meet me down there. I might just fly to Florida.
Now, Jerry, we were going to leave, but Michigan Go Blue 1, 2, 3, 4 has said, "Hey guys, can you answer and give your thoughts on the wide receiver room?" He says he's concerned. Now,
Jerry, I am too. To be honest with you, I am too a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, I would say that next year's team and a lot of different things, how fast Bryce Underwood and the passing game, which is going to include, and a big part, almost exclusively, the wide receivers, how quickly the wide receivers marry up with Bryce Underwood is going to tell the tale of just how good this team can be, what their ceiling is going to be. They got a nice floor, they got nice players and everything, but Underwood with the receivers is going to be the thing that we got to take a look at. And when I look at it, and I think about the wide receivers that are coming back, and then the ones that they're bringing in, is that you've got McNully from Indiana. Now, he was good 2 years ago.
Yes.
Simpson was good 2 years ago. Samaj Morgan looked like he was going to be a star 2 years ago. You're relying on Freddie Moore,
yep.
and Peyton O'Leary. I think this is a spot where the spring transfer portal that they're going to be eyeballing. I think one more, and if you talk about superstar, sure, the very best you can be. You need depth and you need everything, but you really need a star out there. And I don't know, do they have that? What's the one? Is X is the best one? Do they have their X wide receiver? They got to like the Y and Z's, but I don't know. Do they have their X?
Danny, I'm really interested in McCauley. This is the guy I'm kind of interested in. Has he gone down that far? That Indiana had no problem losing him and didn't play him last year. That was very concerning to me. But when he came out, he's going. He fits. He checks a lot of boxes. Big, tall kid, rangy, good size, decent speed. He could be that guy. He could be that guy out there at X, and somebody could threaten that one-sided receiver. So
I would say that this
would be interesting. We need somebody to get in that receiver room and start making progress there. We do need to get that.
I think this is a completely off comment by Calvin, who is talking about Ron Bellamy and him not doing a good job. Now, Ron Bellamy came in 2021. Michigan has won, the Big Ten 3 out of those 4 years. They won a national championship. And if you look how he has done on the recruiting trip, Michigan has gone to, what was the key? Oh, they were going to run the ball all the time. They're going to smash. You go out there, Calvin, and you go get all these 5-star wide receivers that you're thinking about getting. When you're out there and you pick up the phone, you say, yeah, Ron Bellamy, you want to come in and block for a couple of years? So here's my prediction to you, Calvin. You'll like, over the next 2 or 3 years, the wide receivers that are coming in with Bryce Underwood in the fold. Ron Bellamy's job got a lot easier because now he's got these 5 stars when he's picking up the phone or when he's calling, they're picking up the phone like, hey, coach. And so, what I have seen from Bellamy and some of the key wideouts that came in and how he coached them up and what happened, I think that, I'm not looking for apologies from you. I'm just looking at yourself to say, what am I talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about. Ron Bellamy's a good coach. So that's it. That's what I
No, I'm gonna dovetail a little bit. Denny, you made the perfect point. Okay. Our offense is not designed right now for 4 and 5-star type receivers, the big time threats. And I think Ron has done everything he can. Let's not forget, he just got done with Roman Wilson. Who was the other one with them? Yeah, we had Morris with them. We had
Joe.
Joe
was pretty good.
We lost some pretty doggone good receivers. That takes some time to get that inventory back up.
Yeah, and the couple that they had, they ended up hitting the transfer portal. When you're talking about the recruiting part, I'll just say, look, you want to say, yeah, he's not doing a good job, whatever else. He doesn't do a good job recruiting. Let's see what the guys that we haven't seen on the field yet are going to do. That's Shannon Goodman. That's Amarian Stewart. That's Jacob Washington. Yep. That's is a Browder, the kid from Florida. Those are a bunch right there. They've got a couple guys coming in the transfer portal. I know maybe 1 or 2 of those guys can be stars. And then I think those, speaking of stars, like I said, it's not some wild prediction. They're going to get a lot better quality of wide receiver. And then you say, oh, Rod Bellamy, what a great receiver. I mean, what a great recruiter. Yeah. Ron Bellamy's like, I'm selling Michigan and Bryce Underwood.
Not a hard sell.
That's not. That's like selling heated blankets up here in Michigan this week, Jerry. They're going to go fast.
You're killing me, Denny. 3 below. Why am I coming back?
Like I said, I talked with you for 4 hours. Thanks for spending so much time. Be safe out there, and then safe travels as well, and enjoy the Lions game tomorrow night.
Go Lions! Hail to the victors, Denny.
There is Jerry Diorio. It's a pleasure to have him on here on this Friday. Talk to you later.